Hey guys, we are doing this beautiful client today. We've got a medium brown right here that we'll be using our double row shader on to do some beautiful pixel shading. And then we're going to be doing her strokes really soft and airy in our dark brown Pixelblading pigment. Okay, we're gonna start in on this brow. So we're gonna turn, and I pre-drew just like our spine in here, but there is like no hair through this tail, so we kind of can pretty much invent our own pattern through here. And then we're just going to be kind of working on balancing this thicker hair through here. So our pixel strokes are actually going to go here in the front and then through our tail, but we're not going to do any pixel strokes through here. The reason we're doing them is to balance this area. Then we're going to shade throughout. Same thing through here, but the flow pattern of this brow is a little bit different. It really kind of comes upward, and then these are all going to be downward flowing through this tail. So we will have two different patterns, brow to brow. Please take my custom flow bootcamp if you'd like to find out more about how I choose my patterns for each client, but I do customize every single pattern for every single client. We're gonna keep the centers really fluffy, and then the shading is going to be ombreed in so that they don't get too heavy. The shading is gonna be light and airy in that center, and we're gonna give her some really crisp and beautiful tails just to give that like gorgeousness. So ready, set, go. Okay, so for her pixel strokes, they're gonna be really soft and airy. And for more information on specifically Pixelblading, please watch the Pixelblading segment. This is actually going to be focused more on the shading portion. We're just doing a little bit of these, but you just put a tiny bit of pigment on there, and we are going to tap and flick forward, tap and flick forward. So first stroke here, we'll just ready, set, go. And you're just listening for that little prick, 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 prick sound. There we go. And how's your pain level, beautiful?
I don't feel anything.
Yay! That's what we like. And I've already got a few of these little pre-drawn ones in here, and I'm just gonna mimic them. And again, these strokes on her are gonna be really open and airy, because I want to leave space for our shading. Sorry, I feel like I'm like pressing on you.
You're good.
And you are not pressing deeply into the skin at all. You're barely setting those blades down, and they are so sharp they just automatically fall into the skin right up to those training wheel teeth. So you're just lightly setting the needles down and then flicking forward. Okay, and that's actually going to be all the pixel strokes we're going to be doing in the center. And I'm actually going to just, for continuity, do the center on this side as well. I'm going to go back in and do one more in between there, but Just do this one first. Okay. And then there's a little bit less hair down in here. So I'm going to keep doing our soft airy strokes and kind of tapering them off once we get to where the hair is more dense. I'm gonna just do a little V off right here. See what I mean? How you just kind of taper it off once you get to that hair. And part of why I'm doing pixel strokes on her and not just shading is because I want to be able to shade in just a little bit lighter color. And the pixel strokes, the actual pixel blading itself, I'm doing in a darker tone. And it's going to help balance her natural hair out with where we're building her brow. And so that way we can go a level lighter on her shading. Okay, and we're just gonna keep moving right along onto this tail. And again, we're gonna do downward flowing strokes on here. And not a ton, just a little bit of soft flowing strokes so that we can, again, just have everything all blend. I'm just doing these top arch strokes first. I'm just going to go over these one more time. If you work pretty cleanly, you can do that. And then every once in a while, you won't need that second pass. So it saves you some time. We probably will on her skin because, you know, that top layer of the skin is always that first layer. She's got beautiful skin, but it has a little bit of pigment to it. And so then we've got to put in enough pigment to be able to pop through that. Okay. So, I don't think I want to do much more than that, but I'm just going to do maybe one or two little blender ones through here. And I'm just going to keep these softer, not super defined. Again, just going for a super textured, natural look. And one last one right here. And that is going to be our strokes for this side. All right, beautiful, and just turn this side. And now we're just gonna lay in these strokes. And sometimes I actually like to work backwards. So I'm actually working from the tail and then the stroke bottom to top on this brow. But otherwise you can stand up, walk around, but you know, trying to be ergonomically correct, it's easiest just to do almost everything from behind, or I wheel my chair right here so that I can, when I do this side. So body positioning, when I'm working on this brow, especially the center strokes, I'm able just to do it from behind, and same thing right here. But when we're working on this tail, I actually scooch all the way over. Sometimes I stand, sometimes I sit, and then I come this way. And you can do the same thing on this other brow, or another option from actually standing up and turning your body is to actually work backwards. So here, then I can turn this way. So again, you're always wanting to either come forward or backwards, like this range of motion. And so that way we can tap from the bottom up, instead of, if we're doing the top of the stroke down, that's where you want to twist your body and then do top of the stroke down. So I'm gonna do this brow working bottom of the stroke up, just to show you another option for body positioning. And I'm gonna start kind of right in the middle here. And once you stop seeing pigment being left on the surface of the skin, you need to re-dip. We're just listening for that pricking sound, doing these really soft and airy. And again, starting from the bottom of the stroke and then working to the top of the stroke. And different things work for different people. Sometimes people love working backwards like this, so it's definitely something you should try. You can also do this with microblading. So, not that we microblade anymore, right? I think just one more little guy right in here. And then I'm first just gonna go over each of these real quick. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. And then I am probably gonna do some Pixelblading blender ones in between there, but since it got a little bit messy, we're gonna wait till second pass. And now we're gonna do our shading with our double row shader. And again, we're dropping down to a medium brown now. So first thing we're gonna do is shade in between these strokes in the center, and just really lightly. Just a little bit. Because we wanna ombre those fronts. Okay, and now we're gonna get a really clean under edge. And again, I'm gonna start from our tail. You're just listening for that same pricking sound, really not putting a lot of pressure. You're letting these super sharp needles do the work, but by flicking forward, that's how you kind of like, so imagine you have butter on a knife. If you scrape it on the side of whatever you're trying to put it, like, you know, like turn the knife and scrape it off, then more butter gets in there, okay? So by flicking forward, you're actually scraping off the pigment into the little holes that you just punctured. Okay. And now we're just going to ombre upwards. So 1, 2, 3, and then just 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and just kind of up, 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 up. Do the same thing, and we're not doing row, 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 we're overlapping slightly, and that's how you assure that you don't end up with a space, you don't end up with any unevenness. And we're not going to shade a ton through here because she's already got some hair, but just enough to make sure that it's full and balanced and even. Okay, so from here over, she doesn't have a ton of natural hair, so we are going to shade heavier. And I love to try to keep the shading going with that natural flow, but I am going to just slightly kind of tap around and just at a slight angle. Notice I'm not going perfectly, I'm slightly angling in, and that's going to give us just a tiny bit of a softness to this top edge. And that slight point down is also following the angle of the flow of the hair. So I'm establishing this top edge where we don't have hair. And then we're just going to go back in. You can go upwards, downwards, you can go back and forth. And then just same thing, kind of doing that row, but now we're doing them long ways instead of, so here we're going row, move half a blade, row, move half a blade. Here we're doing row, and then move half a blade inward, row. Okay, let's go ahead and remove this so we can see what we got so far, and then we'll shade the other side. So we're going to stamp and blot, and when I blot, I just do a slight twist, and it helps get off that pigment a little more effectively, because you're actually squeezing some of the water off of your wet wipe when you do that. So then you're rinsing and not doing so much scrubbing. And then I'm just going to take one more and just lightly wipe. And I definitely need more shading through that tail. I see that now. Our strokes in the center we did pretty darn good with. And actually the center doesn't need a ton more, but definitely this tail, because there's just no hair, we've got to build some more into. But I am going to go ahead and just throw a little bit more numbing cream on there for her because we can. So I'm just going to throw some more numbing, and then we'll do our second pass on her. All right, and now we're going to shade this brow. So first things first, we're just going to do the shading in between these strokes. I'm just keeping that really light because again, I want those fronts ombre. Okay. And then we're going to do our underneath. How are you doing pain-wise?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can renumb, so you just say pause, and then we'll renumb anytime. Okay. Okay. Good. So. Just listening for that prick sound. I don't know why I usually start with my underline. You don't have to do that. I'm even gonna get this like nice sharpness in this tail real quick. Okay. And then I'll actually do my upper edge now. And again, so instead of being super straight, we're slightly angling inward. So it's like this, and it just tapers off that edge just a little more. Again, dipping when you see that it's not leaving pigment on the skin. That's how you know when you need to redo. Okay. And going slightly inward, right until you get to where it's flowing sideways. And then we're going to do a half a blade in, same angle. Okay, and now from here up, we can start right in here. And so we'll just right where we did our edge. So prick, 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 and slightly move up, almost like one little blade width with every prick. And then again, half a blade over so that there's overlap. Half a blade over, half a blade over. Not a ton in this area because of the hair. Okay, and now we're starting to get the area where we need a little more. And then this is our really full area. And we want this flowing kind of sideways and just a little bit down. You see I'm just constantly moving that blade. I'm focusing on filling this tail a little more because I learned from the other side that was too light. I wasn't given enough pricks. Okay, so hopefully that's not hopefully, it is our first bath on this brow. And we're just gonna do the same thing and stamp and blot. It's very effective in removing pigment off the skin. And then once you get down to where there's very little, I like to wrap it around my finger. Still, I'm just being too pansy with those tails. That's funny. I might need to move to a dark brown ink as well on those. But I love to do 2 colors of ink because it just gives it a really multi-dimensional look. So especially in those tails, we're going to reapply some numbing, but just a little bit in those centers. We don't have to do much more in that area, but just get some numbing on those tails. Okay, and turn to the other side. We're just going to wipe away this numbing cream. Our outline is still lovely. We're just gonna blot. Those pixel strokes are pretty. I think I'm gonna actually start by reiterating those and possibly adding just a few more. I just heard my Midwest accent in there just a tiny bit. Reiterating those. Okay. So pixel strokes first. Okay, I'm actually going to blot this away right away and then add just a tiny bit more. Okay, we're going to do some in between here. Okay, so now that we've got, I think, all of our pixel blading strokes, I guess I will reiterate these front ones just one more time, but to be honest, those are pretty solid already. I'm going to actually remove our map block so that we can see how our edge is looking and see how much more definition we need to do, see how the balance is. I think it's just time to kind of be able to step back and really see what we got so far. So the easiest way to do that is actually to take pigment, because it has alcohol in it, and rub it on top. And when we wipe it off, you can usually peel the matte block and Miracle ink off pretty easily. All right, let's see what we got. I'm gonna wipe pretty firmly to try to remove this. It's gonna be difficult. Okay, that's okay. So here's how we remove matte block. So you're gonna take this micro tip and you have to kind of peel up an edge, and I'll show you what I mean. This actually peels off. My products work by adhering to the skin, not staining it. And once you get the most of it off, you can usually put a little pressure with a baby wipe or a micro tip and remove the remainder. Okay, so here's our first pass on shading and kind of 1.5 on pixel blading, but we're just gonna renumb her and then move on to this other brow, and then we'll come back and finish up this brow and do all our perfecting work. Okay, and we're gonna just reiterate these pixel bladed strokes. They're light, but they are in there. Oftentimes, areas with no hair are the hardest to tattoo. Okay. And that's probably about all I'm going to do, other than reiterating the center ones. And then we're going to do the same thing, remove our outline, and then go back and do all of our perfecting work on our shading. Okay guys, I'm loving how this is soft and airy and ombre in the front, but I just decided that these tails, because of how dense this hair is, and this is why I needed to pull off my outline, right? So I could really see how this is blending with her natural hair, because there was literally no hair up in here. And so In order to make this blend, I'm moving down a color, darker. So we're actually going to our dark brown, and I'm gonna just really make this nice and clean and full through here. So the cool thing about this is you're gonna get to see how quick you can really pack the pigment in here. So you can see how soft and airy and light this shading is right now in this medium brown, and it's really lovely. But yeah, now you're gonna get to see how full and quickly and easily you can really pack pigment in with this double row blade. Ready, set, go. Okay, and turn towards me. Perfect. And the shape is in there, so we're just taking it a level darker. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Underneath outline first. And then we're gonna do this edge, again, slightly angled inward, to taper that edge. You could do it super underlined, you know, super straight and smooth to get like that, like super clean upper edge, kind of like Brows by Linny sort of look. But usually my clients want a clean under edge and a really natural soft top. Just so that they don't like necessarily look tattooed or makeup, if that makes sense. Keep that texture and softness into them. Okay, and then we're just gonna do one step down. So, again, that like half a blade. Okay, I'm gonna make sure this under edge is really nice and clean. I like to do this where I just kind of pull up on the whole brow. Just go through in that dark brown. I really do want to keep the center soft, so hopefully I don't have to add more than that because I want it really nice and ombre'd. And then we'll just wipe. We'll just go through one more time. I am actually giving this just a tiny bit more defined edge on even the upper. So excited, and I could be wrong. I think we're gonna be done with this brow. So what I'm gonna do now, I send each of my clients home with one of these, and the first time I use them is right here at the end. I do a drop or two on each brow. And I have it be a part of their pigment mask because it actually helps start the healing process right now. We're gonna do the same thing with this one. We're gonna remove our matte block and outline, and then I'm going to numb her and shade her the same way I did on this other brow. I'm just gonna remove our ink mask off this, and we put a little bit of numbing on this one, and we'll take both off. So numbing first. And this side's blending better than the other side did because there's a little bit of hair in the tail. But that's why I wanted to remove and look at this brow first and turn for me, because there was less hair, and so we could have gotten away with just shading her with the medium brown on this brow, but we did need to take it down a step on this brow. And at this point, I usually sit the client up and just double check for balance and everything before doing that final perfecting pass on both brows. And here's what we got so far. We're actually semi-close, but definitely needs some perfecting. Okay, and we're just gonna give an even more solid underline here. And then taper it up. Sorry, I'm poking you in the eye. Okay. And then continue on this underline through here. Just trying to add a little bit of depth and dimension through here. Okay, should do the trick. This brow should be done. Gorgeous, and we'll put again just a little bit of that Heal Me on there and let this one sit for 2 minutes and we should be done. And we're just going to do the same thing, just pack a tiny bit more pigment in. Just make sure that under edge is really nice and clean. Just a little bit on this top edge. And angling that blade down so that we're pricking an emotion that is going to mimic how the hair is flowing here. I am just going to do a few little taps in between here. So here, here, here. Perfect. And same thing with the Heal Me. And we're just going to let this sit for 2 minutes and we'll show you her final reveal. Okay guys, I'm just gonna add just a handful in my very almost black just along this, just to give one more level of depth and definition to our pixel blading strokes. Okay, that should do the trick.